Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, oh my God. Holy. Just, I don't know, man. Give me a sec. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new baking series that I'll be running alongside Roll for Cake. This one is called Recipe by Request. If you're new to the channel, my name is Christian and I'm an amateur baker. And for those that aren't aware, in this new series, Recipe by Request, I'll be trialing viral recipes or recipes of interest upon request from subscribers. Now, if any of you are like me, you've saved plenty of recipes over the years that you've told yourself you're gonna make at some point. Or you've seen people make these recipes and you can see they're a professional. They're in a professional kitchen, professional skills, and you're like, I'm an amateur, there's no way I could do this. Or maybe you've seen a recipe and you're like, is it even worth all the time and effort to make it? Like, they make it look good and they react really well, but if they're writing a recipe, they're gonna be pretty biased. So you don't know if it's even worth making or not. And that's where Recipe by Request comes in. So Recipe by Request is here so that I can make these recipes that you want to know about. You know, let me be your hands, let me be your tongue. That sounds kind of strange, but you get the gist. I'm here to test out what you don't have the time, knowledge, or potential skills to do. If you'd like to request a recipe, follow the link in my profile. It leads to $1, which then gives you the instructions on how to request one. Believe me, this is not for me to make money. Baking is very, very expensive. This is merely so I can write it off as a tax deduction. Once requested, I will make a future episode for the requested recipe. I will make, film, review, and rate so that you can kind of see the process that I go through, and I'll give you a rundown of, you know, whether it's actually worth making or not. As I'm an amateur like you guys, I'll give you an in-depth rundown on any of the difficulties that I faced as an amateur making this recipe. A lot of the professionals aren't aware of some of the basic skills that we may not have. So I'll give you some tips and tricks that I found along the way that may not be written down in their recipes, so you know what to look out for. And then I'll just do a taste, a reaction, and I'll give you a review to see if it's actually even worth doing so in the first place. Now, it doesn't have to be just cakes. I'm an amateur baker, so I can bake pretty much anything at an amateur level. So if there's anything you have saved that you've been wanting to trial out, please send them through. And I'll do a personal shout out for anyone that requests recipes in the future as well. Now, today's requested recipe comes from Christina, which you may have seen in episode 1 of Roll for Cake. If not, go watch it. It's a little rough, not in a good way, but we all start somewhere. So have a look at that and let's get on with this recipe. Now, the recipe that we have had requested for today are dirty chai cinnamon scrolls, which just sound absolutely divine. Now, for those unaware, chai in this case relates to a sweet spiced milk, like a chai latte or a chai tea, and they're obviously interspersed with cinnamon scrolls or cinnamon rolls, which you may have seen before, a Cinnabon, a doughy scroll-like shape with cinnamon and sugar in there. But what makes these dirty chai cinnamon scrolls is not what I'm gonna do to them, but the addition of coffee or espresso. I'm still gonna do terrible, terrible things to these scrolls, but that's not why they're called dirty chai. So not only do we already have cinnamon scrolls, which are phenomenal, but we're elevating them with the addition of chai spices and espresso. So on paper, this recipe sounds phenomenal. Now, I've never made my own dough before. Everyone always has their first time and sometimes it can be a little rough, so don't judge. But this is what Recipe by Request is all about. We take the skills of an amateur, we throw a recipe at them and see what they can do. Okay, now that we're done with the foreplay, let's make this recipe, shall we? To start the dough, place 1 cup or 250 mils of whole milk in a microwave-safe bowl or container and heat in 15-second intervals until warm to the touch, but not hot or steaming. Transfer the warm milk to the bowl of a stand mixer fitted with the dough hook. Add 7 grams or 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast and 50 grams or 1/4 cup of sugar, stirring to combine. Let this sit until foamy, about 5 to 10 minutes. Next, add 2 large eggs, 500 grams or 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and 7.5 grams or 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt to the yeast mixture. Mix on medium speed until a sticky dough forms. With the mixer running, add 85 grams or 6 tablespoons of very soft, unsalted butter, normally 1/3 at a time until fully incorporated. Now leave this kneading on medium speed for 10 minutes until the dough forms a smooth, tight ball and bounces back when pressed. Transfer the dough to a well-oiled bowl and cover with cling wrap, and a tea towel and leave in the refrigerator for 12 hours or overnight until it has doubled in size. Once the dough has proofed, place the dough on a lightly floured surface. If it rows overnight, it may feel stiff, but it will roll out easily. Use a rolling pin, roll the dough into a large rectangle, about 12 inches by 16 inches. Do your best, shapes were never my strong suit. Leaving a 1/2 inch border along the short sides, spread 113 grams or 1 stick of very soft unsalted butter evenly over the dough. Then sprinkle 165 grams or 3/4 of a cup of packed dark brown sugar, 1 heaped tablespoon of chai spice blend, and 3.5 grams or 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt evenly over the top. Starting from the short edge, roll the dough into a tight log, pinch the edges of the dough to seal it shut. Using a sharp, serrated knife or unflavored dental floss, slice the log in half, then slice each half in half again to create 4 sections. Cut each section into 3 pieces to make 12 rolls. Look, I know they're not even, I did my best. Transfer the chai cinnamon rolls to a greased 9 by 13 inch baking pan and cover with a kitchen towel and let them rise in a warm spot until doubled in size, about 30 minutes to an hour. While the rolls are proofing, preheat the oven to 176 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit with a rack positioned in the center. Once hot, bake the chai cinnamon rolls for 20 to 25 minutes until golden brown and cooked through. Remove from the oven and let cool slightly. Let's prepare the icing. In the bowl of a stand mixer, beat 170 grams of cream cheese and 28 grams or 2 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter on medium-high speed until light and fluffy. Add 240 grams or 2 cups of powdered sugar in increments, 1 heaping tablespoon of chai spice blend, and 3.5 grams of kosher salt, mixing on low until combined. Gradually add 1 to 4 tablespoons of brewed espresso or coffee, 1 tablespoon at a time until the icing reaches your desired consistency. I used 3 and it made it thin enough that it would spread nice and easily. When the rolls are cool enough to handle, generously spread the icing over the top and try not to eat all of them at once. Overall, the process wasn't too difficult. It was really intimidating going into this with, making a dough and all the steps and proofing and all that. But as long as you follow the steps, it's pretty straightforward. In saying that though, there was a couple of things that I learned along the way that I might just share with you quickly that might make it a bit easier if you do try to make this recipe. Now, I'm gonna try and make this quick because this just smells insane and I cannot wait to trial it. So, first tip, try and make it as rectangular as possible. I did struggle with that a little bit, and when it rolled up, it ended up kind of looking like a snake that had just eaten, with a thick part in the middle and kind of thinned out towards the edges. I did cut those end bits off, and I ended up putting them into the pan anyway to bake because they're gonna get covered in icing and they still have the dough and some of the seasoning anyway, so it's not bad. But if you're after consistent scroll sizes, try and make that as rectangular and even as possible. If it's coming out of the fridge, try and work as quickly as possible while it's cool. It's easier to roll that way. Mine took a while and it started to warm up a little bit, which made it very sticky. So when I tried to roll it, it was harder to do so, which kind of contributed to the shape as well. So work quickly so you can maneuver it as well as you can. I found even touching it with my hands, it started to stick to my fingers. So I put a light sprinkle of flour over the top before I cut it because I knew it would stick to the knife. So tip is, work quickly while it's cool so you can handle it a little bit better. Now, tip number 3, while you're working quickly and it's more maneuverable, make sure the rolls are rolled tight. Mine went very tight. They hung kind of loose, which meant they kind of fell apart a little bit in the baking dish. Wasn't bad, but if you're after nice tight scrolls, move quickly as well and roll them as tight as you can. Second last tip, if you're using a serrated knife, use backwards and forwards motion and the teeth of the knife to cut through the dough rather than pressing, because if you do, it'll squish the dough with how soft it is. So make sure you use the teeth to cut through. Otherwise, use dental floss. And last tip, and probably the most importantly, is despite all these things I stuffed up, it still worked out really well. Sure, they weren't exactly even, but they baked up perfectly, nice and golden brown, and they look and smell amazing. So if anything, this recipe is just slightly foolproof. Okay, that's enough. I've waited long enough. I'm struggling to talk with how much my mouth is watering. Let's taste this, shall we? Oh my God, my mouth is watering so much. Oh my God. Oh my God. I cannot believe that. Hold on, just. Oh my God. Yeah, oh my God. Holy. Just, I don't know. Let me say. I'm not kidding when I say this is single-handedly, one of the greatest things I've ever eaten. I cannot find a flaw with this. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I cannot find a flaw with it. It's phenomenal. It's sweet and salty and gooey and warm and doughy and just, my mouth is watering again just thinking about it. Okay, I'll contain myself and I will finish this so that I can focus, and I'll give you an in-depth review to rate this. It is phenomenal. It's just perfect. I cannot fault this. The dark brown sugar has heated up and melted and created this layer at the bottom of this caramel molassy chewy texture. The dough is pillowy and soft and chewy and not too sweet to overpower you. And then the chai spices just embrace and envelop you like a warm hug from someone you love. And then the icing just adds this creamy, sweet moisture, and then just adds the espresso coffee flavor to the party. And the espresso is not overpowering. It just joins in and helps elevate all the other flavors to these new heights. It's just ooey, gooey, creamy and chewy and just, mwah, it is so good. One thing I think you really need to pay attention to in this recipe is using kosher salt or cooking salt rather than table salt. The differences are the size of the granules. You know, one's really small and one's quite larger. Why this is important is with the kosher salt, it's more dispersed amongst the dough. It's not as mixed in as table salt would be, which means as you're eating this sweet, soft, pillowy, oozy, gooey, you get this subtle hit of saltiness as a kosher granule hits your tongue, and it almost refreshes the palate so that just as the sweetness is about to overwhelm you, it stops. You're just hit by wave after wave after wave of just this sweet salt, sweet salt, sweet salt, and it just allows the pleasure to last even longer. So make sure you use kosher salt because it makes a hell of a difference. So this is a 10. It's just an absolute 10. I can't actually fault it. This recipe is 100% worth it. I know it seems intimidating at first, there's a lot of steps and whatnot, but it's really not too difficult, and mine went perfect. I stuffed up here and there. Use my tips, you might avoid what I did, but despite those stuff ups, it still just came out amazingly. You know, they're all different shapes and sizes, and you know, size doesn't matter because they all just tasted perfect. They were proofed and baked amazingly, and it just came out. Even the dodgy Ed mitts that I shoved in there, covered in the icing, are just awesome. All right, big shout out to Christina. Thank you so much for recommending this recipe. I'll 100% be making this again. I'll post a link in the description below so you can follow the recipe and make it yourself. I would highly recommend it. It does seem scary, but it's not too bad. Well, that just about wraps up the first episode of Recipe by Request. At the end, we 100% recommend this recipe to anyone watching this. It is definitely worth it. It will change your world. It will ruin everything else. So if you don't want to ruin everything else you're ever going to eat, don't make it. But if you want to experience it, please do. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to be involved and you want to request a recipe, please follow the link on my profile and I'll make your recipe in a future episode. Again, it doesn't have to be a cake. These were scrolls. I can amateurly level bake pretty much anything. And don't forget to tune into my other baking series that I do, Roll for Cake, where we use dice to create random cake combinations and then rate and taste the weird and wacky flavors that we come up with. Thanks again. Hopefully see you on the next episode of Recipe by Request. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, oh my God. Holy. Just, oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Let me see.